Hello there, and thanks for joining me. My name is Dr. Sharon Scambry, and I'm here today to talk about marketing strategy. Specifically, we're going to talk about developing and leveraging competitive advantage. We're working from Ferrell and Hartline 2017 text. We're covering chapter 4. So let's share the screen and we'll get going here. All right. Okay, so right, so what we're going to talk about specifically in this chapter is putting together a SWOT analysis and how this SWOT analysis drives strategic planning. Then we're going to look at how to interpret what we've identified in the SWOT analysis in terms of how do you turn that into a competitive advantage, establish a strategic focus, and achieve your goals. All right, so a SWOT analysis may be worthy of a meme or two, but SWOT analysis is about identifying strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats of an organization. So it's an internal analysis, and SWOT is just a framework. There's many different types of internal analysis that you can do, and there's various frameworks that you can use. SWOT is just one of them. But the SWOT is put forward here because it's widely used, and it helps us to sort the various bits of data that we might collect so that we present it in a useful manner. So typically the strengths and the weaknesses will relate to the internal organizational environment, and then the opportunities and threats typically relate to the external environment. A purpose of doing the SWOT is to help us uncover the competitive advantages, or maybe potential competitive advantages. Now, the SWOT is not favoured by everybody. Some of the critics suggest that it's just a list and organisations don't take it seriously, and it can just be a sterile academic exercise. But let's look at the bright side here. The benefits of SWOT is that it's very simple. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get it done. It doesn't take a lot of time to get it done. It's actually quite flexible, and it's rather easy to integrate and synthesize and look at how you can achieve synergies across the recognition of recognizing strengths, and then looking at what does that mean in terms of weaknesses, or what does that mean in terms of opportunities, for example. And it can be quite a useful exercise in terms of collaboration. When you're doing a SWOT, stay focused, search extensively for competitors, and aim to collaborate across the organizational functional areas. That means having the accountants talking to the marketers and the info systems people, right? We want to include stakeholder perspectives, so that includes customers' perspective, but it also includes employees' perspectives. Look for causes, not characteristics. So dig a little deeper than the superficial level, and separate these internal issues from the external issues. So this SWOT analysis ideally is going to drive our strategic planning. Why? Well, because we're incorporating our marketing information that we've collected in conducting our situation analysis, right? And where in that step, we have identified key factors that should be tackled by the firm, key success factors. And we are organising these factors into a system that we can monitor, and we can monitor on a continuous basis. The role of the SWOT is to bring this wide array of information together into a useful form so that we can help us to achieve a strategic focus. So what we've got here is like a generic SWOT, right? Generically for whatever organization you're operating in, when you're looking at identifying strengths, look at your financial resources, look at your brand name, look at economies of scale, proprietary technology, and how well do you do at marketing. These are standard internal strengths that hopefully are there. In terms of weaknesses, what's going on with the strategy? How are you doing with financial resources? Where's the spend on R&D? Have you got a narrow product line? That's not necessarily always a weakness, by the way. And how's the internal political dynamics, right? So these are potential weaknesses that you might like to consider whether or not they apply to your firm. Similarly with opportunities, how's the growth rate? What's going on with the competitors? Where's the government deregulation or regulation at? What technological innovations are on the horizon, and what's the demographic trends, right? So these are example ways of example points to identify specific opportunities that might be relevant to your organization. And then in terms of threats, look at not only domestic but foreign competitors. Where is the organisation at in terms of the product life cycle? Are they in the growth stage, mature or decline stage? You know, if the organisation is moving into the decline stage, this is when the threat is greatest. But threats can also be there when you're in a steep incline, right? When you've got a lot of growth to deal with, that steep incline can actually be a threat. What's going on with regards to customer trends? Is that working for you or against you? Where's the economy at? Are you in a boom or a bust? Currently, most of the world, except for China, is in a recession. And then new technology, is that working for you or against you? So typically we will put a SWOT together as a matrix, just like this, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this helps us visualize what's going on. We don't want the SWOT to be overwhelmed with a managerial perspective, so we definitely want to take into account stakeholder perspectives. We want to look at what are the elements identified in this SWOT that have the greatest influence. And when we're looking to identify competitive advantages, good place to start is trying to see if there's any sort of match going on between the strengths and the opportunities. So this is graphically representing that point, right? When we look at the strengths and the opportunities, we're looking for a match across the two. The identified weaknesses, we want to ask ourselves, can these weaknesses be developed? Could they possibly be converted to strengths? Or are they more aspects that we should try and minimize? Similarly, so with the threats, you know, how serious is this threat? Is this threat something that we should try and minimize? Or is this threat, has it got an opportunity that we might be able to convert this threat to an opportunity, or recognize there's an opportunity within that threat? So competitive advantage can be recognized from either internal or these external sources. And competitive advantage is all about your differentiation in the marketplace. Now, points or aspects of differentiation, yes, points of differentiation can be based on perception rather than objective reality. Okay, so this is part of why we wanted to incorporate the stakeholder perspectives in the SWOT. And we should definitely look for any specific benefits that the consumers consider as value being delivered by this organisation that is a potential source of differentiation and competitive advantage. Okay, so now we want to recognize that we have got 3 basic strategies in terms of competitive advantage. We have got operational excellence, product leadership, and customer intimacy. And we're going to talk about each of these 3. But competitive advantage can come from many points or places, right? We can talk about relational advantages that we have in the marketplace, and this can be with strategic alliances, supply chain partners, customer relationships in the marketplace. What other relational advantages? Okay, well, we'll leave that there. And then legal advantages, right? So maybe we have a strong patent or a strong trademark going on. Organizational advantages, maybe our internal high-level technical knowledge is our organizational advantage. And maybe it's our people specifically that is our advantage. Maybe we have product innovation as something that is working very well in the organization, and therefore that's our advantage. Maybe we've come in and with a price penetration strategy, and that's our competitive advantage. Alternatively, maybe we've come in at a premium price strategy, and that's our competitive advantage. In terms of promotion, we can achieve an advantage by, for example, the way that we promote and when we promote, and what we are promoting. So promotional advantages can take various forms. And then distribution advantages. Maybe we have an exclusive strategy for distribution, and that is our advantage. At the other end of the scale, maybe we have a saturation strategy in terms of distribution, and that is our advantage. Okay, now operational excellence is it's all about a low-cost advantage, and examples here that we can readily identify in the marketplace are Walmart and Dell. So that low price, good value offer from Walmart is their competitive advantage, right? Now, they don't just achieve that with the price of the items on the shelf. They achieve that through their operational decisions throughout the organization, from the manufacturers that they're working with, to their distribution, logistics and warehousing decisions, as well as their retailing and specific item pricing, right? So it's not just, my point is there with Walmart, that it's not just about the retail price. They achieve the core competency of cost leadership throughout their operation. They demonstrate operational excellence with regards to cost leadership, as does Dell. So typically, if an organization has operational excellence as their competitive advantage, they will have low-cost operations as their core competency. Core competency means, what are they good at, right? And Dell is highly reliable in terms of product supply, and this is part of how they have achieved their cost leadership as a core competency. Now, apart from the cost leadership in terms of a core competency, an organization that has operational excellence as a competitive advantage is probably targeting a broad market rather than a narrow market, right? But in targeting a broad market, they're probably going for the price-sensitive buyers within that market. And yeah, you know, waste is low throughout the operation. There's incentives and rewards built into the operation to help them achieve that operational level of excellence. Okay, now a second way to achieve competitive advantage is product leadership. And 3M and Pfizer are examples of brands, that organizations that have been able to achieve competitive advantage through product leadership. Now, organizations that have been able to achieve a product leadership competitive advantage, as has 3M, well known for their many products, including Post-it notes. Pfizer, currently regularly in the headlines for the coronavirus vaccine that they have developed with high level of efficacy. Okay, so organizations that achieve this product leadership competitive advantage will typically have core competencies where research is built into their organization, so that's driving the innovation internally. And as is the case with 3M and Pfizer, they're really good at marketing. They're really, well, Pfizer had a challenge with regards to distribution of their vaccine globally, which now they are all over. So excellent on the marketing skills for both 3M and Pfizer. Now, apart from these core competencies, typically organizations that are demonstrating product leadership as a competitive advantage show that they target a narrow but homogeneous market segment, right? So we're talking about a market segment which is a group of customers, whether that group of customers is consumers, individual consumers, or organizations as industrial customers, right? So a group that has common needs and wants. That's what homogeneous meant. Whereas on the operational excellence, we're talking about targeting a broad, heterogeneous market. Heterogeneous means much variation, right? So if you've got a broad market, then you've probably got much variation. But price sensitivity is the commonality here. Right, so operational excellence is about a broad, heterogeneous target, whereas here, product leadership, we're talking about a narrow, homogeneous market, target market. And another common element with regards to organizations that typically achieve product leadership as a competitive advantage, these organizations typically operate in a decentralized manner, right? So decisions are made within the units responsible, rather than, you know, the leadership team saying what goes, and it goes for everybody regardless throughout the organization, right? So by decentralizing the decision making, they are able to be more adaptive. By decentralizing the decision making, they are more readily able to drive their innovative organizational culture. Now, the third way that you can achieve competitive advantage is through customer intimacy. And here we're putting forward Nordstrom and Amazon as examples. Customer intimacy is all about doing a very good job of achieving a depth of understanding of what your customer is looking for, and making sure that you deliver on what you're promising that customer. So exceptional skills in discovering customer needs is high on the priority list, and very strong in terms of the organizational core competencies. And they're very good at overcoming, for example, service failures, right? So with Amazon, you know, you get the wrong product, they're going to fix it. You know that they're going to fix it. If the product turns up and it's damaged, they're going to fix it. So problem solving is built into their system. Common attributes for organizations that have been able to achieve competitive advantage through customer intimacy is that they decentralize most decision making to the customer contact level, to the customer interface, to those employees that are interacting with the customers, right? So they're empowering their frontline personnel. They're empowering their frontline personnel to not only deliver what the customer is looking for, but fix the mistakes when the mistakes become known, are raised by the customer in the first instance, right? So instead of the customer having to chase it down forever and a day, and then they take so long they give up, they have an emphasis on service recovery. They recognize that service failure happens, but they have an emphasis on service recovery, and in doing this responsiveness on service failure, they're actually building trust with their target markets. And this type of a customer intimacy strategy is all about relationships with your partners, with your strategic partners, with your supply chain partners, and with your community partners. Okay, so now this slide, we've got a summary of those three ways that we can achieve competitive advantage. Operational excellence, focus on efficiency, lower cost, good value for the customer. Product leadership, we're focusing on innovation in terms of technology, in terms of product development, in terms of delivering a quality product or service in the industry. And then customer intimacy, here we're all about our partner relationships, our stakeholder relationships. All right, now when we have many strengths and many opportunities, we're going to go for an aggressive run. When we have many strengths within an organization, but we're faced with dire threats, you know, then maybe diversification is the way to go. So we'll take our strengths, but we'll put them to work in a different way. We're going to pivot away from the threats so that we minimize the threats. If we have many internal weaknesses, but an abundance of opportunities, then maybe we're going to turn around in the direction of what the opportunities are, so that maybe we can convert some of our weaknesses away from being problematic, at least, if not convert them into a strength. But if we're faced with many weaknesses as well as external threats, then maybe we need to be on the defensive. Now, a blue ocean strategy is all about firms developing a strategic focus that stands far apart from the competition. And we're talking about disruption here. A strategic canvas is a tool that can help us visually identify a strategic focus that might help us achieve a blue ocean strategy, and a four actions framework is another tool that we're going to put to work. A 4 actions framework is used to reorient the firm's strategic focus away from where the competition is focused. So here I've got here I'm comparing what's referred to as red ocean strategy and blue ocean strategy, and this comes from Kim and Mogorn. I'm definitely not pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, all right, so the red ocean strategy is where we compete in the existing market space, right? But a blue ocean strategy is where we create a uncontested market space. Let's disrupt the industry and move into our own space. Now, this takes a high level of innovation, but instead of focusing on beating the competition, you're making the competition irrelevant instead. Instead of trying to acquire customers and market share from the industry and the existing level of demand, you're going to create new demand. instead of making value cost trade-offs, you're going to break that value cost trade-off. So a blue ocean strategy is about aligning your organizational activities in terms of differentiation and low cost. All right. Now, I mentioned that strategic canvas is a tool that can help you in this regard, right? So a strategic canvas is basically a graph, okay? So on the horizontal axis, we're going to have various attributes, right? What's an attribute? An attribute is, let me show you my pen, right? My blue pen here. An attribute of this product is that it's blue ink. An attribute of this product is the brand name BIC. An attribute of this product is that it has a lid that I can put on the tip so that when I put it in my pocket, maybe it's not going to, hopefully it's not going to leak all over my nice white shirt, right? So this is product attributes. And this is what's going to be on our horizontal axis, various product attributes. On the vertical axis, we've got the level of identifies the offering level received by the buyers for each factor. So we're going to look at an example of this. And what we're going to do on our example on the next slide is look at a value curve. So we're plotting, right, for each attribute of our product, right? How much does the consumer value each attribute, right? How much does the consumer value the lid that's going to stop it from leaking on my white shirt? How much does the consumer value the brand name? How much does the consumer value the blue ink, right? And then, so if each of those attributes are on the horizontal axis, then what's the offer? How does the buyer, the customer, the consumer value each of those attributes? So let's look at an example, right? So on the horizontal axis, we've got various product attributes. The product that we're looking at here is actually a service. It's Southwest Airlines, right? So on the horizontal axis, we've got the various aspects of price, meals, lounges, seating choice, connectivity, friendly service, speed, and frequency of departures. And these product attributes can be plotted in terms of how much value is placed on by the buyers for each of these product attributes, right? And we can plot it for Southwest on the green line, a vehicle on the purple line, so that's indirect competition, and then other airlines on the orange line, okay? So Southwest on the green line, for example, this strategy canvas is showing us that Southwest does really well in terms of friendly service, right? The offering is valued quite highly in terms of friendly service provided by Southwest. Other airlines, not so much. So apparently Southwest does a good job with friendly service. They also do a good job with speed of transportation and frequent departures. However, they kind of suck at the other things, right? According to this analysis, they don't do so well with price. They do a little better on the meals, but they do worse with lounges and seating choices and connectivity. Whereas the other airlines are far ahead of Southwest on these product features. In the indirect competition in terms of a vehicle, the vehicle can depart anytime you like. So that's where that competitive choice wins out. Now, here's another tool that you can use to help you figure blue ocean strategy. So what you're doing here is looking at the factors that the industry operates on, and you're asking yourself, can you eliminate these factors that might be taken for granted? Are they actually necessary? Look at the key success factors considered within an industry and see if they can be reduced, or can they be increased, okay, above the industry standard? Or do we need to look at completely different key success factors? And when we look at these 4 actions of eliminating, reducing, increasing, or maybe reinventing the key success factors in an industry, we end up with a new value curve, and effectively we move into a blue ocean space. Right. Okay, now remember we started talking at the beginning of this chapter, we started out talking about the SWOT analysis, right? Now, the SWOT analysis helped us to identify what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses that maybe we can develop into our strengths, what are some current opportunities that we might be able to take on, and the challenge of striving towards at the moment, and what are the threats that we're currently faced with. All right, so looking at that SWOT, right, what now do you consider, having done that SWOT analysis, what now could the organization document in terms of their goals? What are your goals? Based on your SWOT analysis, what are your marketing goals? And these goals are broad statements of desired intentions, desired accomplishments. They're expressed in general terms and are not specific, but they give a direction, and they should be attainable, consistent, comprehensive, and intangible. Okay. Now, marketing goals are broad. Marketing objectives are specific, and they're measurable. And it's this specificity that makes the difference between a marketing goal and a marketing objective, right? So here we've got some elements of what is a good marketing objective. Well, we can use the SMART criteria for that. And SMART criteria is just an acronym for specific. It's got to be specific, right? What is the specific objective here? What does it relate to? Does it relate to promotion? Does it relate to innovation? Does it relate to market penetration? Does it relate to sales and growth? Is it measurable? How much do you want to grow by? 10%, 20%, right? And how many, you want to have the specific goal, the specific objective of product innovation, product development, right? So maybe you want to identify 3 new product innovations within the next 12 months, right? So that's measurable. Is it actionable? Is it realistic for you to look at 3 new product innovations? Is that realistic for your organization, for the employees the talent that you have on board at the moment? Is it relevant? Should you be focusing on product innovation? Should product development strategy be the objective at this stage of the organization's development? Maybe you've had a strong push on a product launch just recently, and the organization is experiencing a strong growth curve. And so, maybe product development is not what you should be focused on. And then time bound, right? So do you want to achieve it this week, this month, this year? What's the deal here, right? So what I like to suggest in terms of how to formulate your objectives It's very simple. Just say, number one, to do what by when. Number two, to do what by when. Number three, to do what by when. And quite typically, you will have 3 to 5 objectives listed in a 12-month marketing plan. And these objectives drive the rest of the tactics that are laid out in the marketing mix, that are recommended in the marketing mix. So I think that's it. Yep. All right. Lovely. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you again soon.